Good evening and welcome to today's Tropics for June 12th, 2021. Please note, I'm not a meteorologist and this video is just a collection of my thoughts and opinions about the storm I'm talking about. And for any decision making, please consult the National Hurricane Center or your local officials. So today I'm looking at Invest 92L, and this is a system that is generally associated with the Central American gyre. You've got the stronger trade winds coming in from the Caribbean, and those are uh, interacting with slower flow and a general trough of low pressure in the area. And so that means you've got some convergence at the surface, and so you've got some convection in the area, and uh, this trough is becoming stronger because of that of convection. And this one area has potential to develop in the rather short term if it can get itself together and more compact. But if not, the general Central American gyre circulation that it's embedded in will likely come up north through possibly the Bay of Campeche and come up north into the Gulf of Mexico probably late next week. Well, there's a lot of uncertainty there that we'll have to kind of iron out in the next few days, but we do have some time to watch it and to judge the risks of it. So looking at Invest 92L and what it is for right now, it's not convectively impressive right now. This seems to be the real big inhibitor. It's got a large area of convection, but before it likely landfalls into Mexico further south, it's got to get itself really concentrated and get some convection going, rather than being this kind of broad area of perhaps some troughiness, but not really a whole lot of concentrated convection, and somewhere where the actual low pressure could start getting going. However, there is some guidance that is kind of excited about this, and one of these guidance models is the GFS, and it kind of spins something up sort of as it starts getting towards the Mexican coast and has probably a weak tropical cyclone before it makes landfall. So that would happen if it can actually get some centralized convection getting going somewhere, unlike what it is right now. If it doesn't within the next few days, it does seem that it won't really develop into much of anything more than a trough of low pressure. We'll have to see, but the general environmental conditions aren't actually too bad, because at this point, the uh, anticyclone aloft that is generally just a bit to the uh, east of Invest 92L, and then there's this upper low to the west, which is causing some southwesterly flow here. But as this area of anticyclonic flow aloft moves north and Invest 92L moves south, it'll probably end up in a low shear zone, and that will allow the convection that does develop in the area to not really get sheared away, and that will help it organize if it tries to. At the same time, there's also likely going to be a decent amount of moisture in the Bay of Campeche. Maybe not further north, but in the area where Invest 92L will be, there will be some decent moisture. So the environmental conditions aren't really all that unfavorable. It is generally those kind of more internal features, like how broad it is, seem to be what will be the downfall of it if it can't really get going. Further out, though, or first of all, there isn't a whole lot of uh, steering right now, because there are two ridges here, and one is out to the northeast over the plains and South American Southwest. Then you got the subtropical ridge that is usually out here, and then right between those you kind of have a trough here, and that is trying to impart a bit of westerly flow in Invest 92L. But the issue is it's just too weak, so that flow kind of gets down to the Gulf of Mexico, but doesn't really get far enough south into where Invest 92L is. So instead, all it does is kind of keep the western portion of the subtropical ridge weaker, so it basically limits its westward expansion. And so between these two ridges, MVS 92L is kind of caught in weak flow. So instead of looking at the general or in the or for environmental steering, you kind of look for more uh, closer or features that are closer to it, and instead of say the ridging around it, you've got this big area of flow or cyclonic flow here. That's the Central American gyre here, and as it kind of goes around that area, and that gets influenced by that steering, it seems that as it gets closer to the more western portion of it, it'll probably move towards the south and into the Mexican coast, perhaps even as far as the Eastern Pacific. Though probably won't do much of consequence then, because the general circulation of the Central American gyre could move further north as time goes on. And you can see this happening further out. This is now 6 days out, so this is valid. Next Friday, so we're looking at almost as far as next weekend. So we have a lot of time still to watch this. But basically, what happens as you get this trough passing by, that means in the wake of the trough, you have ridging building up, and that allows the subtropical ridge to start building to the west. Notice how instead of being all the way over eastern Bahamas, it's now this area is now extended to be over Florida or southern Florida. And so that means instead of being between two ridges and experiencing weak flow, the Central American gyre at this point will be subject to more southerly flow, and this will start lifting it out of the being kind of in the middle of of Central America, and slowly lift it generally to the north, maybe a bit north northeast, and first into the Gulf. We're not quite sure where it's going to be, and that's one source of uncertainty in general with the or among plus the time. But what we do know is there will be that general circulation that will be lifted north, and this will be your usual June sort of cyclone. It won't be a well organized tropical cyclone coming up from the uh, Gulf, but instead you'll have this large area. Since it is that Central American gyre, it's a large, broad area of low pressure, and you'll have these little mesovortices like this one, or these two here. Uh, I can almost guarantee you that the mesovortices modeled here won't be like it will when the time comes, but this generally provides a good view of what will go on. A broad area with a few mesovortices. They'll try to get going as they rotate around and try to become dominant, but it's given it's June, we're probably not going to see something like that. So probably going to look at something like the usual June broad sloppy system that provides a lot of rain but doesn't become like a very strong tropical cyclone. As for the environmental uh, conditions around it, at this time there'll probably be an upper trough in the region, and this low sticking out here will allow for some actual upper divergence here, so that might actually enhance the convection to the north. So maybe perhaps you'll see some mesovortices north of the low, getting into an area more favored for convection, maybe trying to get going up there, but eventually moving south and de-amplifying. So we'll probably see some mesovortices trying to become stronger, but likely ultimately not really becoming more dominant than the big central area of rotation. And there will be some westerlies here, but not the worst. Given that it is June, there almost always is a degree of westerlies here. It doesn't look the worst here, but the problem is it's such a large area that you uh, have that continental area that tries to kind of flow in and dry the area out. And you can see that kind of trying to get in the western side, and this will likely become more and more amplified as time goes on and it gets further north. However, at the same time, you've got this kind of southerly flow that brings more tropical air from the south, and uh, as a result, you get a very east-weighted storm. And with that westerly shear helping a bit, it yeah, it'll likely be an east-weighted, possibly or more northeast-weighted, uh, typical June sloppy storm. But that doesn't mean that it won't be impactful. Uh, the general uh, Central American gyre probably enhance flooding in the area with convection and slow-moving vortices. And so there will probably be some flooding in the near term for Central America. So be prepared for that, as it could be even occurring right now. But as this circulation moves to the north into likely next weekend or even the week after that, so this is very far out and we don't quite know where it'll be. But where it does come ashore, you'll probably see some antecedent rainfall come ashore, and a lot more of the rain be weighted to the east. To kind of see where the low is at this point, you can see there is a bit of rain to the east as it tries to as that moist flow tries to wrap around, but the bulk of the rain will fall to the east and to the north of it. So it'll be so if you are living to the east of this, don't expect that you'll be seeing no impacts. Be likely that as it comes ashore, you'll probably be getting some of that rain uh, as that moisture tries to uh, get into the area. And if you are in a flood-prone region, especially if you're in one of those regions that have been experiencing a lot of rain, such as Louisiana, you should be prepared for possibly more rain, depending on how things trend, and possible flooding as it comes ashore. But luckily, there is a lot of time to prepare since this is generally a further out solution, probably more than a week out. But it is worth starting to take a very early look at for this at this point. And as always, stay safe. If you have any questions, comments about my video, please let me know. Thanks for watching.